Hey guys, what's up? It is week 148, and if you guys are wondering, Excuse King still in full effect. Ear not doing well, like I said before. Still have an appointment coming up, so that's cool. Let's hop into these reviews. The first one is going to be the Into the Dark, My Valentine, that debuted in February. You guys don't know this show. It does like every month they do feature-length movies that are involved with holidays, and they've been doing it for a couple years now. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a handful, and for the most part, they're worth watching or interesting enough. My Valentine. Okay, this is one of these movies where I'm watching and I'm like, oh, you know when you were like 10, 15 years ago for me, I'm like, I'm young, I get it. Now I'm like, I don't get it. Like I'm starting at that certain point where you can tell this movie's made for a way younger audience than yourself, or just more modern than I probably am used to. You know, I did understand it for the most part. This one, actually, the style is excellent. It has lots of bright colors, the lighting and the music and the editing and stuff. It's definitely using technology and social media in its story, and it does it to pretty decent effect actually. This follows the plot is basically there's this, I can't remember any of the characters' names because it's one of the first ones I watched for the week. It basically follows this girl. She's like a singer. She's being accused of being a ripoff of a very popular artist, and pretty much everybody hates her. There's a group of people that are basically going to go to her next show and ridicule her off stage and everything like that. And basically what happens is this kind of shady individual comes in and he tries to pay everybody to leave early, the bartender, and lock him and the fans that he paid to kind of disrupt the show, and a couple other people, and the girl, of course, he wants to confront her. It turns out that they have a long history, and he actually is the manager for the new kind of pop singer, and you learn that they had a history, a kind of a love situation, and he's a manipulative piece of crap. I guarantee this movie will, fit into that. Like, it feels like very modern. Like I said, it has like a lot of that Me Too kind of abuse thing going on in here. And it also has the social media and how people act and everything like that. And there's also a thing about fakeness in a lot of people, especially in the fans, and how they treat, the people that put stuff out there. So it's saying a lot of things, and it's doing it in a very brightly lit kind of entertaining style. My only real complaint is that they're trapped in one location, and sometimes the characters will just watch when somebody's being murdered or something like that. And in the end, it really annoyed me. I probably would have been much higher on this, but there's a certain point where they have these, there's side characters throughout, and a couple of them, one person that really doesn't have anything to do with it gets out and they're in danger, and the main characters just stand and watch. You really like the lead in here. You actually like her the best, and you side with her. The bad guy is really crazy, really over the top, and he does it kind of almost like villain character, not villainous, of course, but villain-like character from a comic book, and he does it pretty well, but he's also really creepy. For the most part, I thought the acting was really solid. I thought the music was really good and fit with it. I thought that the two storylines going back in time worked really well. But like I said, there's just some things that it feels a little rushed in execution, especially like how the characters just don't act when they should act. So that kind of knocks some points off for me. But I do think it's worth checking out. It is kind of cool and interesting, and it looks great, and it feels very now.
In the dark, I feel you. One more breath, everything could change.
It's over.
It's not over until I say it's over!
As some of you may know, this is my first show in a few years. It's him.
What are you doing here at Royal?
You were nothing before we met.
Back off, dude!
Holy shit.
I moved on. Hi, sweetness.
I really don't see the resemblance.
You registered every song I ever wrote in her name. She is the spitting image of me.
This here is justice.
Edge of the night.
You recreated me on your body. You need some serious therapy!
As my heart hopes to die, I'll dance with you on the knife.
Okay, the next one is from Dark Sky Films, and this is Ghost Killers vs. Bloody Mary. Okay, yeah, this is super weird movie, super crazy, kind of bonkers. I guess if I had to compare it to something, I would compare it to maybe like Jack Brooks' Monster Hunter or Evil Dead, kind of. It's going for that kind of over-the-top comedy. It's definitely a horror comedy. It's about a group of ghost hunters. They call themselves the Ghost Killers, but actually, aren't they Ghoul Busters is what they actually call themselves, and they have this fake logo that's a ripoff of the Ghostbusters logo. Really funny. But this is like a Brazilian movie. There's these basically four people that are one's kind of behind the scenes doing the tech stuff. Four losers. They're definitely going for that semi-lovable loser thing. And in comedic style, I'm kind of getting sick of the comedic lovable loser. We saw that in Little Monsters last year, which is a solid movie, but I'm so tired. I like losers in movies. Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia is one of my favorite movies, but watching like these lovable, like comedic losers things, it's like I'm getting real tired of it, especially when they cross that line and almost make them just, they're despicable, really. They're not really even, they're so bad. The characters are so miserable, and I guess that plays into the comedy, and maybe they're just trying to cross that line and not make them likable at all, but they're just miserable losers that I don't really want to watch. But basically what happens is these kids do this stupid spell in a school, and they bring through Bloody Mary through the mirror. And kids are starting to have seizures and get sick. The principal figures, I'll calm these kids down and hire these ghost killers or ghost hunters around to, lighten the situation with the kids. I don't really think there's ghosts or anything like that. So the ghost killers, they own they owe a bunch of money and everything, like I said, and they want to break through. They're do better than their crappy internet show. So they show up to the school, which is a great location for a horror movie. This big school and everything like that, free reign. And they try to stop the Bloody Mary ghost. One of the guys, in a fit of rage, breaks the mirror, and that releases Bloody Mary into the school. There's a student hiding there that's obsessed with them. The principal, there's a couple staff there. There's a big security guard. So all these people get entangled in this crazy ghost story. But it's not your typical ghost story like hauntings and everything like that. It has that, but it's more of a possession story, and it's a gory, over-the-top, nonsensical, insane kind of deal. It's a splatter movie. It turns into a splatter movie, which I kind of like them mixing the ghost with the splatter. I don't think I've really seen that too much. But I have seen it with possessions, demons and things like that. So Bloody Mary comes out of the mirror, and she starts to jump into people. One of the major characters that you think is going to be a major character dies fairly early on, and that was probably a little upsetting because I thought that was probably one of the more stronger characters in the film. So I was a little let down. And there's a couple moments, really, when these people just do the worst thing. And at the very end, they cross that line so much that when they do kind of try to redeem themselves, it's far too late, and I've already lost all sympathy or all, worries for any of them because I kind of just wanted them all to die at that point. So that's probably the weakest point of the movie is the characters. It's not like the Ghostbusters where they're assholes at sometimes, but you end up really liking Bill Murray, or like an Eddie Murphy character who's kind of an asshole, but he's still great. These people are not that. They're just miserable, and I hate them the entire movie. So that's my only weak point. I did like some of the side characters. Like there's a teacher in there that's stuck in there. She's an older lady. She's pretty solid and decent. And then the student, the young kid that they find, I actually liked him better. Some of the gags are really great, and they even go as far to have some objects or some things possessed that you wouldn't expect. I don't want to really spoil that because those things are really kind of funny and goofy and across that line to over the topness. The halls get painted in blood. It's super gory and bloody, and all in all, I think it's worth checking out. It is a little long. I think it runs near close to 2 hours, and I don't think a splatter movie should be running close to 2 hours. I think that's a little bit much. If this sounds like it's up your alley, I want to double check the time. I really do feel like this movie was that long, and I'll post up here how long it was, but I do feel like it was pushing like an hour and 48 minutes, and I was just like, man, this is very long for what it is. But there's no special features on the disc, but it's worth checking out, and I think that some people will get a kick out of it. A lot of people will eat this up. They'll enjoy the hell out of it. It's a horror comedy, a lot of blood, and a lot of people will love the humor a little more than I did. I did laugh at a couple of the things. Some of the dialogue was pretty funny, and a lot of it, there's some nice setups and payoffs here and there. So yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, this next one is from Mondo Macabro, and this is The Beast and the Magic Sword. Yeah, that's right. That's a Paul Naschy werewolf movie. This is one of the later ones, Some people wish that he would have ended the werewolf, what is his name, Valdemar Daniski or something like that. This guy played, Paul Naschy played Wolfman or a werewolf, like, over a dozen times. So okay, The Beast with the Magic Sword. This kind of reminds me of something like the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires from Hammer, because that's kind of European European meets the the East. Yeah, so it's like that. They do that. I think with is it Chinese culture here again? This one we do that. We have I think it's Japan actually, which is really kind of cool at the same time. So we have that werewolf storyline meeting like the East, Far East in Japanese, which I think is really cool. So basically, this opens up in Toledo, Spain, the sister city to where I'm from, Toledo, Ohio. I'm sure Toledo, Spain is much more beautiful than Toledo, Ohio, but it is the sister city. So it opens up with this kind of old deal where his family lineage is cursed. Paul Nash's family lineage is cursed. He's this kind of his family. Originally, he plays two characters in this. The old one, he plays like this super like kind of brute soldier, and this king who doesn't like him. But he's kind of has some superstitious about him. If he's killed, not in battle, they believe everyone will be cursed. So what happens is he sets him up to fight this barbarian kind of god, like the leader of this group of people. He sets him up to fight, and he says, if you win, you can have whatever you want. He chooses to marry his daughter because, of course, Paul Nash ain't going down like that. So he wins. The barbarian's wife comes in and curses the family lineage to basically be werewolves, monsters, and beasts throughout. So we fast forward years later, and of course he's trying to figure out a cure for himself. And he has his wife and everything. So he goes to this Jewish man who is like super intelligent and knows science and all those things, and he tries to cure him. The townsfolk won't have any of it because they think that he's basically a witch doctor. And they're horrible. That's another thing that Paul Nash will do. If you've seen like The Devil Incarnate, he always makes a statement on the church and all that hypocrisy and things like that. That's kind of similar to like a Fulci would do in Italy, but this is more in Spain, of course. So he makes a statement on that. He ends up being told that the only man who can possibly help him is in Japan. So he makes his way there with the Jewish man's daughter, I believe, or kind of daughter, a blind woman, and his wife, and he basically tries to find himself a cure, but he keeps turning into a werewolf every night. There's some really great moments here where the warrior is supposed to help him, spots the beast, and he's running on top of these huts and everything, and he's up there looking down at him, and there's this great shot from below, and you look up and you see the full moon in the background, and I was like, I've never seen anything quite like that, and I don't think I've ever seen a werewolf in this kind of area, and I was just like, this is kind of exciting, this is something new, and I'm vastly enjoying it. And there's a great scene where he just rips through somebody's house, and Paul Nash is just like a stocky guy. He was a power lifter, so and things like when he plays the mummy or like other creatures and monsters, because he's played them all, he just has an intensity about him, and he's really fast and just kind of scary. And I love how the werewolf looks here. He's just bulky, kind of reminds me of like a Wolverine type. But this is a really good movie. It's really entertaining. The samurai character, I don't know necessarily if he's a samurai. There's like shoguns and stuff like that, but I would imagine he's a warrior, so he's maybe a ronin. Not a ronin because he didn't lose his master, but he's basically a samurai. He must fight a bunch of people. There's witches in here to figure out how to save this man because they become friends and everything like that, and he becomes manipulated. There's a great scene in here where Paul Nash must fight a tiger, and it's a real tiger. It kind of reminded me of the scene with the zombie versus shark and zombie, so I was like, oh, that's really crazy, a werewolf versus a tiger. Like, they're doing stuff that other movies wouldn't do, or that other movies would basically hyper focus on, and that's the only selling point. This movie has a bunch of cool shit in it. It is a gimmick, but it has so many cool things and different things, and I guess though his werewolf character was in a lot of different spots and fought a lot of different monsters. So Nashi had a deep love for the Universal monsters and just the monsters in general, the classic monsters, and it shows here. And he's got to be somewhat of a egomaniac just to a certain extent, because he always gets all the girls. Like, all the girls fall in love with him, and with the werewolf curse, it must be someone who loves you that puts you down to save your soul. So I really enjoyed this. I thought it was tremendous. I thought it was great. Mondo cleaned it up. They give you a 4:3 and a widescreen. I did notice that the movie seemed to have some weird kind of shaking effect at times in some of the beginning scenes, and I think that's probably just the movie itself. It was in both versions, so it's kind of like a little maybe out of focus, like jittery at certain points, and I imagine that's probably with the elements. But I'd really like to check out a lot more of these werewolf movies. I have a slew of them. He has made, like I said, a dozen or so, maybe more. But yeah, great stuff. There's some good features on here. This guy goes into the one I really liked was Paul Naschy's Smile of the Wolf, where he talks about his career and all the werewolf movies he was in, and he has since passed. So that was really valuable for me to hear and watch and stuff, and open my eyes to how cool some of these werewolf movies actually look. And then there was also geez, what is the other one? There's like a documentary about the werewolf movies on here. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Where is it? The audio it's the geez, no, it's not even listed on the back here, but there is like a 20 to 30 minute interview with kind of a film expert on the werewolf movies too, which I thought was interesting at the same time. But regardless, this is a really good release from Mondo Macabro, and I would recommend checking it out. It's just such a unique werewolf movie, and it's one of the better ones I've seen. Really liked it. This was made in '83. The Beast and the Magic Sword. Yeah.
Le tengo encerrado en las mazmorras y tal parece que el prisionero sea yo. Pero temo ajusticiarle. Temo que la maldición se cumpla y mi pueblo quede condenado.
Que la eterna maldición del Señor de la Noche caiga sobre la estirpe de los Daninsky. Que jamás los espíritus de los que llevan su sangre encuentren la paz. ¡No! ¡Tu hijo ya está maldito!
Un hombre víctima de una maldición sufre una terrible enfermedad y recorre el mundo buscando la curación de su mal. Solo un sabio en el lejano oriente será capaz de curarle, pero para llegar hasta él deberá vencer los más insólitos obstáculos. La bestia y la espada mágica, una narración sorprendentemente nueva sobre un tema clásico del cine universal.
Yo creo que posiblemente nos estemos enfrentando a algo que es mucho más destructor y maligno que un simple oso o un lobo de gran tamaño.
¿Plata? ¿Para matar esa bestia?
Valdemar, bebed esta pócima. Sus efectos os harán regresar al pasado. Y los profundos misterios sobre el origen de vuestro terrible mal os serán totalmente revelados.
Paul Naschy, en su caracterización de la bestia, logra la más impresionante creación de su carrera. Shigeru Hamachi, como el sabio Tian, es a la vez el más arriesgado y diestro samurái. La bestia y la espada mágica, un espectáculo grandioso donde la aventura, la acción, la fantasía y el terror crean una historia inolvidable. La bestia y la espada mágica, una obra maestra del cine fantástico, cuya grandiosidad y belleza marcan un hito jamás igualado.
Okay, we have another one here from Mondo Macabro, and this is Dangerous Cargo. This is part of the Greek collection. This is volume 4. And yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. I probably don't have much to say. There's not really any features on the disc. Mondo Macabro did a great job cleaning it up with the audio and the sound, with the audio and the visuals and stuff. So I thought it looked pretty good. But this one, it's kind of a fairly straightforward plot, but it does have its twists and turns that I don't want to really get into without spoiling. But we have this new captain of a boat. He's basically wants to travel with his newlywed wife. One person on the boat had a relationship with that wife, so that complicates things, makes this weird love triangle. And there's also this other guy on the boat who has motives, but the cargo is nitroglycerin, and it reminds me of the Lost Continent, the Hammer movie, where they're like transporting that stuff illegally. So it has that kind of deal. So the crew starts to get upset, and there's all these twists and turns, and somebody wants it for money, obviously, to deliver it to a certain point, but somebody's doing it for political political kind of affiliations and kind of is a martyr. So it becomes really complicated. But the central focus is this woman who basically a lot of the people on the boat want. A lot of these, these men on the boat want the captain, the guy who had a relationship with her before, and this also kind of this other guy. But there's this really great fight scene at one point where all the crew starts to fight, and the guy tries to break him up, but he gets hit, so he jumps in. And there's a couple of these guys just doing like one guy's in the background doing these off karate kicks, and it's just like this is not good fight choreograph stuff right here. This does not look real at all. But I imagine the highlight for a lot of people here is the female and the sex scenes. There's some flashbacks with her and stuff like, but that kind of show more of the story and the love angle. But the sex scenes in here are pretty good. They're pretty bordering softcore. I would say they're almost softcore from a softcore film. No penetration, but you pretty much see everything else. It's fairly graphic, and there's quite a bit of them. And the lead female in here is gorgeous, and she looks great. So, but there's lots of weird scenes of the crew dancing and everything, and just weird things going on, and it definitely weird hierarchy on the boat within the crew and everything like that. So it's also on a boat, which is a great location for that kind of movie, because it's really sets this contained movie, and obviously you don't have anywhere to go, and there's also a criminal element on here, so it's fairly decent for the most part. It's just not enough going on for me, and it's just a thriller kind of sex movie. It's dangerous cargo. It's okay, and it ends pretty crazy and pretty wild. So yeah. Okay, the next one here is from Arrow Academy, and this is Kansas City, directed by the legendary Robert Altman, and this stars Jennifer Jason Leigh, Miranda Richardson, who else pops up, and Harry Belafonte, Dermot Mulroney, and Steve Buscemi. So it's got a really nice solid cast. It also is sprinkled, or basically has a bunch of jazz singers and everything like that in here as well. This takes place Michael Murphy's also in here. This takes place at, what's the time period I'm looking for? Who's the president at the time? I want to say maybe the 30s. Yeah, definitely the 30s. So and it opens up kind of strange, like where it opens up with Jennifer Jason Leigh kind of walking into this rich woman's house, and she doesn't typically do her nails, but she's going to do her nails, and then she immediately takes her hostage and everything like that, and then we have a flashback kind of story, but it feels like the two storylines catch up at one point, so everything's kind of lined up and everything. So that could throw people off originally. They talk about that in the special features, and I noticed that it did start off with a weird storyline, but I never lost interest, and I never got disconnected from the movie, so I followed it pretty well. The plot of this movie is basically Dermot, I always say, is it Dermot? Yeah, it's got to be Dermot. From Young Guns, of course, Dirty Steve. He basically is a dum-dum, and he robs this very powerful black gangster and Harry Belafonte, which is a crazy role, because the only thing I've ever seen him in, besides his calypso music, is Against All Odds. I believe that's the title with Robert Ryan. That's an excellent movie. But so he plays this really mean kind of gangster who just trails on and has these giant monologues and tells all these elaborate stories. Really, really good performance. But he rips him off. He is caught, and he's being held hostage. Kind of hostage. He's kind of being, they don't really know what to do with him because it is the 30s, and even though he's a powerful gangster, they don't want to bring the heat on him, for killing a white guy. But Jennifer Jason Leigh, being married to him, wants to try to save him, so she decides to try to kidnap kind of a political influencer, political guy's wife, and put pressure on him to try to get him released. But that gets very complicated and everything like that. So a lot of this movie is Jennifer Jason Leigh and Miranda Richardson being together, and they're completely different. Totally different. Jennifer Jason Leigh's from a working class. They call her blonde, even though her hair's still dark, because she used to dye it and it fell out. So it's like a nice little elaborate story. And she's such an excellent actress, from stuff like Hateful Eight. She's just so in movies, and I completely don't remember it's her because it's just like a chameleon. And she has this kind of like almost like simple kind of thing to her, and she does an excellent performance where she's obsessed with movies, and they point that out in the special features too, that the movies to her seem more like reality, and like when she she's just got a weird sense of reality about her, obsessed with the movies and everything like that. But you really like her, even though she's kind of a dullard at certain points, and kind of delusional in a lot of ways too. She basically and Miranda Richardson is what is that stuff that I always forget, laudanum. She's hooked on laudanum at the time. She's always drinking it, and she's just kind of out of it, you seem. and Michael Murphy is completely, you know, not in the town, so he's trying to set this up to get her out, to save his wife. This is all happening at the, you know, the backdrop is like an election coming up, so we see how the things work, how they basically force people to vote a certain way, and how they vote numerous times, and it's all corrupt with gangsters and everything. We also have this backdrop with Harry Belafonte being like running, you know, tables and illegal gambling and drinking and everything like that. It's time of prohibition, I believe, so that's going on at the same time. And we have all this jazz music is pretty much the soundtrack, and we have like these crazy scenes where they go off for a long time with these jazz back and forth. It's a really good movie with a really good soundtrack, and I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. The violence in the movie isn't glorified. It's there, but here and there, and it's a really kind of tragic movie that you don't expect and necessarily some of the characters to do what they do. But one of the best performances I've seen in a long time from Jennifer Jason Leigh. I thought it was tremendous. There's some special features on there talking about this movie and how Robert Altman grew up in this area in you know, Kansas City as a kid. This thing is very kind of rose tinted glasses, or, you know, embellished to a certain extent, I guess is the better word to say. And he was very young, but he kind of grew up here, so this is a very important movie for him, so that's really cool. And they also poured over a commentary by Robert Altman, who's since passed, of course, and they poured over a bunch of the electronical, you know, kit edit stuff from the past, with interviews with Altman talking about this, and Jennifer Jason Leigh and everything like that. That's really nice, to be honest. The set design's perfect. It feels like a really big movie. The acting's top notch, and the whole, you know, style and everything is great. Arrow cleaned it up. I did notice, I think, a slight glitch at like 147, and I don't know if it's just my copy or not, but it was very quick, like a second or so, so I don't know if it's all disc. But if you get your disc, wait for the 145 to the 150 minute mark and see if you have a problem or not. But yeah, nice release from Arrow Video, so that's Kansas City.
So, did Babe give you something to bring to me? Yeah. I got something for you. Wait. Try to get over the shock of this so we can get down to business and cooperate with each other.
Somebody set me up, Seldom. Some nigga robbed me in your cab, stuck a gun in my face, and took all my damn money. That's what I'm talking about.
In my cab? I got to say this for you. You got guts. Guts and no brains.
Girl, we can talk this over like John.
Take your coat off. You come swinging in here like Tarzan, right in the middle of a sea of niggas.
So, can I have my husband back now?
How'd you like him? And a sucker in a box.
Son of a bitch, don't you touch him! Let me go! There's a guy named Johnny O'Hare, okay? He's been picked up by some nigger gangsters. If Johnny gets free, you get your wife back. If he doesn't, I'm gonna put a bullet through her head. If I see anyone suspicious around, your wife will wake up in a pile of dirt. Only she won't wake up, get it?
I don't really know what you're talking about.
I'm not talking to you, halfwit.
When one person is talking, it's reasonable to assume that the party who is speaking to the other party, isn't it?
You'll be exercising your God-given right to vote. However, you'll be voting the way I tell you to vote. That understood? Yeah. Understood? Yes. Shut up!
Sooner or later, everybody got to go. And who's to say when that is? In your case, I do.
Blondie, they're not gonna let him go. Yeah! You shot that gun! You shot that gun! You're not gonna go yellow pants on me, are you?
You gotta give this up, and you gotta let her go too, because they're gonna kill you!
If my mother was alive, she'd cut your balls off.
You know they give the death penalty now for kidnapping?
Jesus Christ. What are you trying to do? Give me nightmares?
Hey guys, what's up? We're here to review a few movies for you. What's the first one called? Because I don't know. I'm doing this because I always say it wrong. Lycanimator.
I think it's Lycanimator.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
Okay, the title is a mix of a lycanthrope and reanimators. Basically, you know, kind of, I guess, definitely playing homage to Reanimator and werewolf films. Mm-hmm. This is directed by Seb Godin. Just get this over. I know Seb. Seb's a friend of mine. I've done some little roles for him in his movies, so And you helped Seb with some drawings for this poster, actually. The original poster, one of the promotional posters.
Yeah, I think it was for a flyer that he was handing out.
So basically, we're really biased when it comes to this movie. My hair's looking crazy. Seb is a Canadian filmmaker. He filmed this movie in Florida. It's a ultra low budget movie, and it's really kind of a short. The runtime says for like 50 minutes, but it's more like 35 to 40 minutes long. It stars some people that I'm always familiar with, like Joel D. Wynkoop. When you watch a lot of independent movies, guy's a ball of energy, very entertaining. Also, Jonathan Smith's in here. He writes and stuff. He's like writes on horror blogs and stuff. He's like a reviewer kind of deal, and he also writes his own books and everything like that. This is his first film, so I know him as well. So there's some people I am familiar with in here, and then a couple of the Florida actors that pop up in like the like to make them what's I forgot the name that Sean Donahue's company runs, Sleazebox and those kind of movies, Gator Blade Films. So yeah, do you want to start this one out? The plot, basically, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward plot.
Yeah, so a doctor was making a serum from different monster DNAs, and he injects it in.
He injects it in himself, so the government or whoever won't get the crazy serum.
Right.
So he basically, he doesn't want to take it away from him, so he injects it, becomes a monster. Years later, there's this isolated house that these kids are going to rent to party at, and it's supposedly something happened in the basement. Joel D. Wynkoop plays a crazy vet who has lost his mind and knows about the house. He's basically the red herring, the crazy Ralph, but the crazy Ralph comes back at the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. The performances are all really, for the most part, they're all really enthusiastic. People are really gung-ho, and they're very funny, to be honest.
The acting in the movie is actually really well done for a
low budget movie. Joel D. Wynkoop steals the show. He always does.
Cracking up watching him. He's just so much fun whenever you see him. He's in a Dirty Cop No Donut.
Yeah, that's my favorite performance of his. And if you ever listen to that movie with the commentary, he stays in character the whole time and tries to blame all his acts on CGI. It's about the funniest thing ever. So I'm a big fan of him, and he's one of those guys that just some people are gonna love it because he's just insane. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it seems like they just let him go off the rails here. And the editing in one scene where he's talking about it cuts back in these crazy thing and they put all these weird filters on it. It's probably the best scene in the whole movie because it just fits perfectly and it actually works with it. But a lot of the other technical aspects, they're just, there's a lot of like problems. Like at one point Todd Sheets has a cameo, indie director as well. And you actually like the focus in, like there's water on the camera and like you could see like the sun is a glare. I don't know if that's on purpose, but you can't see what's going on at all. And then at one point you actually hear, like, I don't know if it's kept in for like kind of a joke or something, but you hear the film direction, like move forward cut. And I saw that in something else, and I don't particularly like that if it's on purpose, but I think maybe it's the DVD's actually rendered wrong. I'm not 100% sure because there's a scene where it's out of sync too. Like that could very well be it.
Yeah, there's a few scenes that are out of sync.
Just
maybe
one.
They're dubbed.
Just one.
Just the one in the beginning,
and then the rest of that scene's in sync. So
right.
I'm wondering if there's just a DV malfunction. I'm not 100% sure on it.
Right.
This is a Wild Eye DVD. But like I said, the technical stuff, like the sound's not great. You'll hear like traffic, and some of the editing is really kind of weird, where it will jump in different spots that you don't expect, and it just becomes a little jarring. But and it's very short. Like I actually wanted more. I would have liked this movie to be about an hour long.
Yeah, it probably should have been longer. They introduced Joel D. Wynkoop's character like really abruptly. Like I think it's like a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, he's talking about just an old vet that nobody cares about.
Yeah, and it starts off, it's like, well, there's the doctor scene, and then it's them getting ready to go to, for their vacation. Yeah. Then it's just Joel D. Wynkoop, like, losing it. And it's like, who is he? Why is he in this?
I mean, it's just a cut to him. I don't really... That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about, like, scenes with, like, a group of people. And, like, it'll be here and then it'll here. I feel like they're breaking the 360 rule at times. I don't know 100% if that's the case or not. But some of it just looked a little jarring. Like, they didn't have enough footage or something was wrong with some of the takes or anything like that. But like I said, there's a lot of enthusiastic performances. I enjoyed watching everybody on the screen. There's some blood and gore. The mask looks all right. I mean, sometimes you can see, like, the... some of the seams, and that's just the way it's shot at certain points. But a lot of times I did enjoy it. I did notice a dip in quality at one point too, and I don't know if some of the footage was, it was a different camera or not. But Seb definitely loves his lighting, so there's lots of like bright colors and everything like that. The score's pretty decent. I enjoyed the music in there.
Yeah, the music's really good. There is that one scene where it looks like almost like they were shot on VHS or something. And I don't know if that's like an aesthetic thing or is it just a technical thing.
No, I jumped right in the middle. It was kind of strange.
Yeah.
But the characters are all over the top.
Yeah.
Like the villain, I guess, of the kids is just so ridiculous. Like he forces Jonathan Smith's character to drink like the serum. It's like, who would do that?
Right.
But, it's just like a catalyst to get the movie going. Joel D steals the show like he always does. And, it's fun for what it is, but there's a lot of technical stuff that a lot of people aren't going to be into because these characters are super over the top. And like I said, I'm definitely biased. Maybe I enjoyed it. I know Seb and I know his mentality and what he likes in movies and everything like that. So that probably got me to a certain like. I do think it is a quick watch. So I do think people that like super like backyard kind of filmmaking will enjoy it.
Yeah, it is under an hour. It's literally like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much it costs for the DVD.
I'm not sure either.
Either the Kickstarter or
I don't know. No, the Wild Eye released.
The Wild Eye.
Yeah, so that's like a company that releases a lot of independent stuff.
So I mean, it might be worth it. I don't know what the price point is because I don't pay for anything here. But
there's a making of too. That's like
there's a making of.
I think it's only like 15-20 minutes. Maybe it's shorter than that. But it was kind of fun to see them. They talk about stuff being cut out. I wish that the stuff was on the disc.
Yeah.
Like they show Alberto, I'm going to mispronounce his last name, Giovanelli. He's in some of the Florida stuff, and his kid was in the movie, Lucio. He's actually named after Lucio Fulci, which is great. He was in the movie, but his scene got cut because it didn't work or anything. I wish maybe there were some deleted scenes or something like that.
And Giovanni Radici does the narration.
Oh, yeah, he does the narration.
I forgot about that.
From, Cannibal Ferox and House on the Edge of the Park, a bunch of stuff. So he actually does the narration in the opening of the movie and everything like that. So, it has some familiar faces, some horror, genre actors and everything like that. And, I like Seb. And it also has a short film on there, Flesh Flower?
Flesh Flower,
there it is. So that one, I'd say the technical aspects are a little bit stronger in that. But it's a smaller cast, it's not as ambitious. But if this sounds like it's up your alley, like I said, this is backyard filmmaking, and it has a lot of technical problems. But, check out the trailer, you might be into it. You could tell they were having fun while making it.
Yeah, and that's always important when you're watching these, is like, they're having fun, and I enjoy it, and I like to see more.
It's not heartless.
Right.
I've made a terrible mistake. Obsession has ruined my life. It has destroyed me mentally, physically. These secrets were never meant to be discovered.
What happened to you?
Nikki. Behind you.
This is the police!
God help you and all of mankind.
Biggest piece of meat in the game.
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Fresh bodies.
What you love is the feeling when you're stopping her life.
Kill for me.
And he is Lycanimator. What the hell happened to Rosemary?
You want a silver bullet, huh?
Legend is reborn in the all-new Godzilla 1985.
Perfectly normal for insects to be slightly telepathic.
Yeah, it's normal for insects. But am I normal?
Sandy.
Horror has found a new home. There is no mercy.
Well, you just pissed me off.
Well, if that's the way you feel, forget it, Vic. Just forget it. But I think you're really out of line.
I hit the fucking brain!
It will scare you to pieces. Fright Night. Friday the 13th, Part 5. A new beginning. Freddy's Revenge. House. Cut and run. Demons. Day of the Dead. The return of the living dead.
Your journey ends here.
Welcome to Fright Night. For real.
All right. Now we're going to dive into 1985, and this is The Dark Power. I'm going to start in style. Yeah. This one I had never seen. I had heard about it for a long time. This is a VCI release. Yeah. This movie is an hour and 21 minutes long, and it takes 48 minutes for the monsters to show up. So keep that in mind. What we have here is this kind of small town in the Southwest where it opens up with this old Native American dying, and they were going to record his will and testament because he was kind of a big deal in the area. But he dies before they can do it, and the sheriff or the ranger, park ranger, is there, played by Lash LaRue, who is in a bunch of B-movie westerns that I'm not really familiar with, but this guy carries around a whip. That's kind of his gimmick. So he passes away, and in this area, so they really don't know what to do with all the stuff here. In this area, it's well, basically, he was obsessed with the Teltonics, I believe is how you say it, which is not even from the Southwest. I believe it's from, even in Mexico or whatever. Or Aztecian, which were kind of, shamans or sorcerers or whatever that would bury themselves while they're alive so they can return later. So they're kind of obsessed with that. And this land that he owned is supposed to be kind of haunted and everything like that. The son doesn't care. Even if the ranger and everybody else doesn't want him to do it, he sells it, and he's going to rent it out to college students. So that's how we get college students involved with Native American monsters. That's okay. Whatever. But so pretty much the first 48 minutes is setting all that up. There's a news reporter who's interested in the story, and she's kind of digging in, and a lot of that is, information dumps about how this stuff works and everything like that. Lash LaRue is basically like a old heartthrob to her. She's always flirting with him and everything like that. And he has a real connection with the Native American who passed away and everything like that, and a real respect for him and respect for the land and everything like that. So they also set up that his whip is pretty dangerous. He chases a pack of wild dogs away. So yeah. A group of sorority girls move in, and this movie has like racist characters. Like there's this big fat guy who drops the N-bomb one time, and he's basically, you know, a handyman. Him and his brother are these dummy handyman. This guy reminds me of Uncle Les from Dead Alive, kind of that deal, or Fat Bastard, somebody like that. And he's just this big fat guy, and he's really kind of a piece of shit, but at the same time he's not even the biggest piece of crap in the movie, but he's also one of the most entertaining characters in the entire movie. Probably the most fun to watch for me. So basically what happens is the sorority girls move in, and there's some nudity. Of course, they pack that in there. One of the girls is always in her underwear working out. But I will say this. There's like three the sorority girls I really liked. The two main ones. One's played by an African American, and that comes into play as well because one of the girls is really like a snotty brat, and she's a racist, and she doesn't want to live with a black girl, and so she brings in her brother, who's also a racist, to kind of, you know, live there and kind of get rid of her and everything like that. And that's a big chunk of this movie is the asshole brother and his friends just kind of heckling all them and everything like that, until of course the Native American sorcerers come back. There's 4 of them. They kind of remind me of something like out of Neon Maniacs. One has a bow and arrow, one has a tomahawk, one seems to be almost like in shaman gear, and then there's the big one. They're all really tall and really big, except the guy with tomahawks. So after that, they basically destroy the cast. But it turns into a comedy after that. There's like weird sound effects of them bumbling around the house, like brr, brr, and it's really weird and out of place. Some of the gore is over the top and actually fun and goofy, like they rip off a face and everything. I think that works pretty well. Unfortunately, though, once the chaos starts, a lot of the characters die right away, and I wish, they could have, had less of the beginning and more of this, because this stuff is actually fun to watch and entertaining. They do manage to make a small town work fairly well. They set up what's going to happen, and all the whole, Toltec stuff with the symbols and the knives and everything like that. And so that kind of stuff, it works decent enough. And the idea that there's not that much Native American horror, to be honest. And I know the monsters are stereotypical and a lot of that, but so many of these Native American characters that they would make Will Sampson play, like in Poltergeist 2, or just make my eyes roll. And it didn't happen here. But, of course, a lot of the cast gets picked off, even some ones you actually really like, and, of course, they fight the Native American sorcerers, or whatever they are. And Lash LaRue gets to use his whip in a pretty cool way. So, it's a pretty dark movie, but I actually could see what was going on. And the director talks about that in the commentary. He's like, I like that the movie was dark, but you could actually see what the hell, you could see what was going on. It wasn't too dark, it wasn't too light, it actually looked like real night. And the commentary is pretty decent. They, him and one of the monsters on there that did other stuff on the movie are talking about everything. And they did a pretty decent job on a budget. I mean, it's just, the problem is, like, it took way too long to get started, and it has like a lot of stuff that is very dated where you'll just roll your eyes, and the comedy does feel a little out of place with the creatures. If they would have played it straight, I think it would have worked. I don't know why they didn't, because a lot of the movie isn't funny before that for me. I put on my Letterboxd review, I said, I don't know why, but I kind of like this. Oh, wait, I know why. I'm an idiot. So take it what it is. There's also a nice little thing on here about Lash LaRue, him meeting him and everything like that, so the director. And he also did another movie in 1985 called Alien Outlaw, which I might check out. But this is Dark Power, and I kind of liked it, to be honest. I know. I like zombies and monsters like that kind of deal, too. And I like when there's more than one, so I'm a sucker for that.
It was the perfect house. It had everything they could ever want. Room, comfort, and a deadly secret.
It's guarded by 4 Indian sorcerers.
Girl, you better watch out, honey. Toltec sorcerers are bad dudes.
The Toltecs. Why was Cody so obsessed with the Toltecs?
Toltec. When the Toltec era ended, one particularly brutal and outcast tribe moved far north. And they're said to have moved close to this community.
Honey, I've heard a lot about this house. That's why I'm not even for sure I want to stay here.
These 4 Toltec witch doctor types did some kind of magic. Dark powers.
Oh, the dark power. That's scary. I mean, why is the eagle on top of the skull?
To control the dark power.
Oh, that's just wonderful. I mean, what would we do without an eagle?
All this partying is enough to wake the dead. Get a lot of girls in there, it'd be just like a sorority house.
Hey, weird company.
What are you doing here?
Oh, I know what I'd like to be doing here.
So let me put something in my stomach and I'll be with you in a minute, okay?
Okay.
They killed Susan.
This is serious. Did you hire this guy to scare the girls? What guy?
Actually, it's really a nice house. I think you might like it.
Sounds like they're raising hell outside.
I found this place, and we decided that we were going to try to populate it with our friends and keep any unwanted strangers from moving in. And if she moves in, she'll probably coerce a whole bevy of her gyrating friends in here.
You can get sued for this.
All right, you demonic bastard. Let's take this outside.
Drink up, boys. The party's just beginning.
It looks like the neighborhood is going to hell.
Okay, here we go. The next one from 1985 is from Troma, of course. And it is Igor and the Lunatics. Yeah, this one's super short. And oh boy, this one opens up with a murder of a girl by a group of goons or whatever, the leader of this cult, and 2 of his goons. One played by the guy with the hand puppet in Spookies. He's also in Street Trash, Peter Ilsaro or whatever his name is. He passed recently, so. But he has that little small role in it. And they put this girl on a saw and split her in half. And I was like, whoa! And then it cuts to, they didn't show everything, it cuts to this guy writing a note to this woman and leaving it and saying, I have to stop everybody, I have to stop these cult. And then we kind of go into a flashback and he starts to tell the story about how he was involved with this cult and everything like that, and he got out, but his girlfriend at the time was pregnant and he couldn't get her out, and how and then they show a murder, that same murder within like 10 minutes of it, and it's the same, a lot of the same footage, and they show it again. And I was like, I'm in for something not good right now, because they're just reused the same footage and made it longer. It showed more of the gore. And I was just like, oh, that's padding the runtime, right? That's got to be padding the runtime. But basically what happens is that the girl who is in bed somehow gets involved with this this cult, and she meets a young boy in the forest who is the son of the guy who was to go back and stop the cult. And we see how the cult was arrested and broken up, but there's still 3 of them roaming the countryside after the leader gets out, and they want their revenge on this town. The main guy is not Igor. Igor's not the main guy. The main guy, I can't remember his name, but he's a tall kind of guy. And then there's Igor. For the most part, this is probably one of the most poorest acted films in 1985. I think it is, for horror films at least. This is, I don't think I've ever seen acting this poor. The lead in it, the lead guy who's trying to stop, he's probably the strongest actor in the movie, and I don't think he's horrible, but a lot of the side characters, like the cop, the sheriff, and everything, are just abysmal. And Igor is the biggest overactor I've ever seen. He's kind of the crazy one, and he is absolutely awful. And the leader of the cult doesn't have any charisma. It's just bad. It's really poorly acted. It's really poorly really, put together. And I don't know why they tried to switch up the structure. But it is short. It is an hour and 20 minutes, so it gets kind of to the point. It's not the most boring movie I've seen from 1985, just the most poorest acted one of 1985. So, and there's some gore effects here and there. There's some random characters that come in just to get killed. There's some hilarious fight scenes. One of the deputies, the way he fights and just beats people up, handcuffing them. There's like a 5-10 minute scene where they're just handcuffing people in the woods. It's really drawn out in a lot of points. Lots of silly, stupid moments. People end up at places where they shouldn't. A moment where this girl's walking in the woods with her dog. Somebody pops out and scares her. She runs. You don't see her dog. Next shot, her and the dog are running down the road. Next shot, she runs into a bar, tells her friends what happened. No one seems that concerned. Doesn't talk about her dog being lost. Doesn't say anything about her dog. Doesn't go outside and get her dog. She just says, "Oh, let's go back to." One of the guys says, "Let's go back to my house and get drunk." And they say, "Okay." No mention of the dog. Just leave. I don't know. It's just like, what in the hell happened right there? Really? Like, that's just basically this movie wasn't completed and somehow they put it out. Is what I'm thinking right here. No special features on the disc for me to find out pertaining to the movie. You guys remember old trauma movies had a bunch of features, nothing pertaining to the actual movie. But this one really, it's really inept and really poorly done for the most part. There's lots of scenes like, well, hey, you should go out and paint by that cornfield. And then it'll just cut to that girl painting by the cornfield, and then the guys come out of the woods like, and kill her. Yeah, they always rip off all the girls' shirts before they kill them, because you got to make sure you kill them right. So you got to rip... girls can't be wearing shirts when you kill them, right? That's just stupid. I mean, duh. But it reminded me of something like Nightmare City, where all these old zombies are ripping off girls' shirts, like, and then stabbing them. It's like... it's not good. But... I met with a group of people, it would be pretty entertaining. But Igor and the Lunatics, yeah.
In the 1960s, the youth of America rebelled against the establishment. They dropped out, used dope, coexisted in squalor, and copulated in the filth of what they called communes.
Let this moment signal the coming of the new way!
And when the communes really degenerated, they became known as cults. Of the cults, there was one cult more dangerous than any other. One so terrifying that it could not be reported on until now. The cult known as... and the Lunatics.
Everybody's a lunatic.
Yes, the police beat him. The authorities jailed him. But they could not stop him, and now he's back for revenge.
Now is the time preordained to move against the puny insect towns that dare to plot against us.
He's Igor and the Lunatics. And he's one hell of a guy.
Don't be afraid.
Igor, the first psychotic killer to have a full degree in cosmetic surgery. Igor and the Lunatics. They're not a rock group. Igor. He's the most creative, homicidal maniac ever brought to the silver screen. You must witness Igor and the Lunatics. Igor and the Lunatics. Still crazy after all these years. Rated R.
Okay, this next one's going to be pretty quick, and this is Creature by William Malone. This is a diamond DVD that I've never even opened. Remember these DVDs? I didn't open it because I watcwatched this damn thing on Tubi TV. It was the Titan Find, the uncut widescreen version, so why watch my crummy DVD? It's probably cut. But William Malone, okay, he did the remake of House on Haunted Hill as well. So Creature, aka Titan Find, this is made in '85. This is a ripoff of Alien. That's well put. This is going to be a quick review. Notably known for having Klaus Kinski. Notably known, okay, has Klaus Kinski in it. All right, but a group of I guess I don't even remember why they're going up in space in the first place. Oh, I think like this whole kind of it's a kind of a savior mission. A bunch of people get killed. Something crashes, so they decide that they have to go up there and check what's going on and figure it out. So the group lands. The characters are fairly well established. They kind of make everybody known and what their jobs are and everything like that. And there's a lot of character development, probably a little too much, but they end up getting on this ship, and it turns out that there's these weird aliens, a bunch of alien life forms, and one of them is very dangerous, and it's a parasite that attaches to your head and kind of takes you over and uses you as like a zombie, but it also is like a creature in its own, so it's like kind of dual thing where it's controlling people in this weird kind of element. And you know, the idea that it's a, you know, alien, I mean, aliens, they send a bunch of people back up as a rescue mission, so it's kind of like that in a sense, and this is made before Aliens, but at the same time, Alien, they boarded a ship to kind of salvage it too at the same time from a distress signal. So it's pretty much an Alien ripoff. So basically, they have to deal with a whole bunch of things going on here. It's more of like, you know, it reminds me kind of like Underwater or something like that, where they're constantly talking about our air supply. We're running out of air. There's a lot of, you know, repetitive things where it's like we got to go back and forth and walk to this ship and walk to that ship and pre-planning and all that stuff. Klaus Kinski ends up being a German astronaut or whatever from a different ship. I guess they're not astronauts, whatever, because we're so far into space that people are just, you know, going into space all the time. So I don't know what he is. He's a scientist. He's on another ship. He was somehow on that ship, and all his men got killed and taken over by the creature, so he knows what's going on. He's really weird and creepy. The first time you see him, he grabs one of the characters' breast, and he's like, yes, Klaus Kinski for you, probably. I think that his scenes were probably cut short because he's not the easiest to work with, according to William Malone. And a lot of stuff when, you know, Klaus Kinski is used in fight scenes and stuff, it's clearly not him. I don't want to spoil too much on that. But, like, the creature starts to overtake people and everything like that. And like I said, they do have attempts at character development. The set design's pretty good. It looks pretty good. Looks kind of big budget for what it is, and there's some gore effects where people get ripped to pieces. I believe somebody's face ripped off. It's been a while since I watched this one, you know, early in the week, but there's some effective stuff, and I just wish the characters were a little more interesting, or actually maybe just a little bit better acted, because there's not really anybody I'd recognize, and they all are kind of like, you know, wooden. I'd say the acting is kind of wooden besides Klaus Kinski, but it's okay. It's decent. I don't love it. I just think it's a little long for what it is too at the same time, but that's Creature, aka Titan Fine.
In the near future, in the shadow of Saturn's rings, stranded beneath the surface of the barren moon called Titan, scientists find the one thing they never expected.
Is anybody here?
Was expecting them.
Oh my God!
And suddenly, those who had traveled across the galaxy had run out of space. Creature.
We found someone's collection of life from all over the galaxy, like a child's butterfly collection. Only some of these butterflies are not so friendly.
Who wants to keep us here?
What's that?
It's open one of the doors.
This thing is using it for food. It's using our own man to kill each other. Now!
Creature. It kills to live, and it lives to kill.
Okay, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one. I know it. I watched it on Amazon Prime, so I didn't even bother watching my DVD, but I never even opened it. Once Bitten from 85. It was an Amazon Prime and HD streaming, so I didn't bother opening it. You guys know this movie. Stars Jim Carrey. Who else is in here? Cleavon Little. I know I'm forgetting some people. But this is a comedy horror movie from '85, like I said. And this is a little early for Jim Carrey, so he's not super over the top like he always is. He's a little bit subdued. But I'm not the biggest Jim Carrey fan, but I would say that really Jim Carrey's not what holds this movie back for me. The funnest part, or the most fun I had watching this movie, was seeing little cameos that pop up. The guy from Flowers in the Attic is a vampire in here. The guy from Christine and Friday the 13th is a vampire in here. And of course, this annoying kind of ice cream customer is the kid from Friday the 13th Part 5 who's like, way out of line, the one who gets axed in the back in the very beginning. He's in here as well. So the plot is Jim Carrey is a virgin. Sorry. I've got something in my tooth. Sorry about that. But Jim Carrey is a virgin, and he basically, he's dating a girl, and they've been been in a relationship for 7 years, and he just feels really a lot of pressure to lose his virginity, probably because his two idiot friends are always like, oh, you gotta lose your, always trying to get laid, always being over the top and ridiculous. It's the 80s, right? It's a sex comedy horror movie. Yeah, everybody's gonna be over the top and ridiculous. So essentially he goes out one night and tries to pick some women up. And this vampire who needs 3 virgins before Halloween every year picks him up and starts to feed off him little by little. And he's starting to turn into a vampire, so he starts to change and everything like that. Kind of reminds me of like a more poor Teen Wolf or something like that, where there's a kind of change. So his friends end up trying to help him. His girlfriend tries to help him and whatnot. But, Laura Hutton, I believe, is the lead vampire. She has like an army of vampires that she had like sucked blood from over the years. So you have some from like, one has like a rebel flag, one that'd be from different wars and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting, kind of fun. She has a bunch of goons and everything. But the problem with this movie is none of the humor lands for me. It feels like it's a beat too late. I think the comic timing is off in the editing or in the performances. It's just not funny for me. The best parts of the movie are the dated comedy that's completely inappropriate. And I don't know whether I'm just a piece of shit for laughing at it or I just laugh because it's so inappropriate at this point. So, like the shower scene, forgive me, fags in the shower, that thing they say there, it was just like, oh wow, geez, that, and then like of course the scene, it's like they can't get away from not doing something in the 80s comedies. They always have to have a gay joke or a couple gay jokes or a trans joke. It always happens in these movies, and that's just a piece of the timepiece. And something like Revenge of Nerds does it, but I just feel like that movie's so much better and funnier, and the comic timing's better. I don't find any of this funny. I didn't find any of it worthwhile for me. I do think that the opening and the carnival and stuff, I love looking at that kind of stuff. It's just that Jim Carrey doesn't work for me. His character's okay, I guess. He's subdued for him. I just don't. The story's boring. None of it works. It's just not. It's not more. I know they try to do some of the gothic twists and everything and dream sequences. It's just a snooze fest for me because none of the comedy lands. Even the sidekick friends that normally would be the best part of this movie, they're bland, they're boring, and it's just that for me, man. None of the comedy lands. The romance doesn't work. Nothing works. When you look at vampire movies, like Fright Night, like the seduction and everything is so perfect. So that's one of the best movies of '85, but still. And then when you look at the comedy movies from the '80s, like Revenge of the Nerds or Hot Dog, they're just so much funnier. I used Hot Dog for Christ's sake because I recently just watched it. So it's just like, so much better than this. This is just not for me, I guess. A lot of people love it. I just don't like it at all once bitten.
Once in a little-known hamlet called Hollywood, there were 3 young guys who did absolutely nothing except think, drink, eat, sleep, and dream about women. Grown up, high-heeled, low-slung, flirtatious women. Trouble is, they couldn't find any that lived up to their high expectations, which were pretty low, until one of them met the Countess. She had an incredible thirst for blood, virgin blood, in Hollywood no less. One look and he was smitten, one kiss and he was bitten, one bite and he was hers forever. Once bitten. You may see a funnier movie one day, but don't stick your neck out. Coming this fall from the Samuel Goldwyn Company, Once Bitten.
Okay, the next one from 85 is from Australia, and this is Fortress, not to be confused with the 92 movie by Stuart Gordon. This one stars Rachel Ward, and she's a school teacher. I believe this is based on a true story to a certain extent, but she's a school teacher, and she teaches about 9 students. It's kind of like a mixed class of different ages. It's from a very small town, and one day these criminals break wearing masks. They all wear different masks. One's wearing a mouse mask, a cat mask, a duck mask, and a Father Christmas mask. They kidnap everybody, take them in a van. They take them in the middle of the outback, and they have this cave, and they put them in there, and they're basically going to hold them for ransom. They put a big stone in front of the wall so they can't get out. And they're all kind of terrified and everything like that. They set up all the characters pretty decent, so you know who these kids are. Rachel Ward, you really like her. She's tough, but she has moments where she breaks down. All the kids have their moments where they break down and everything. They seem like real characters, and the idea how stressful this would be. The criminals are scary. They're really intense. They yell, especially Father Christmas. They're brutal, and they're pretty much no-nonsense kind of guys. They have no choice but to kind of go in the cave and look around. They find this water, this like kind of underwater, river or pond, more pond. They decide to try to escape and everything, and the criminals kind of follow them. That's kind of the plot. It's a survival movie. They're kidnapped in the outback, but in the beginning stuff, even the beginning when it's like showing this, they set up everything, with the kid shooting the fox. So like in the beginning of the movie, and it's shot like a horror movie when it's going across the house and everything, and doing this creepy establishing shots and everything, and I guess it's tracking establishing shots. So that's really cool, and it looks creepy and like a horror movie. And they do that a couple times, especially at night. Every time it's at night, it feels like a horror movie in the woods and everything, and fog and thick atmosphere. And when the violence is there, it's pretty gnarly, and especially what happens to one of the characters, one of the bad guys. You're just like, why would they do that? That just seems way out of character for them to go that far with this guy. So like a lot of that stuff really works, I think, well. Like I said, the scary stuff and the cinematography. The cinematography is excellent. Like in the opening when the kids are walking to school with the teacher, it falls like through this a bunch of stuff, and then you see them, and it's like rising up the camera, and you see them walking down the road, and it stops, and they're in the middle, and they're like framed between a hook hanging off the thing and everything. And I was like, man, the cinematography is great. They'll have like focus, and they'll move, and they'll focus on something. I just thought it was tremendous cinematography for this kind of movie, an exploitation kind of movie. It's based on true story that feels a little exploitative at times. And there's these elements of scariness, like where the guys hint at molesting one of the girls who's pretty young, and the teacher. So you're like, oh, these guys are really nasty. But it becomes a survival movie in the sense that like kids have to deal with a real crime element, kind of like the Cowboys with John Wayne, where they have to face up against some real bad guys, and they end up doing that in booby traps and everything. And you do feel like at times the kids could get killed or could get hurt. The revenge is sweet, of course, the standing up for themselves. I think this is a really good movie. I love how it ends. It's really cool. And also, I feel like it's very Australian, if that makes any sense. And from the Australian movies I've seen, I really like it. It's a really good movie. Well acted, especially the kids. The kids did a really good job, and they're all established characters. It's not easy to establish that many characters and kids and everything like that, but I thought they did well with it. Love Rachel Ward in it. She's excellent. Vernon Wells plays one of the goons. And it's weird because he, again, would appear in 1992's Fortress by Stuart Gordon, so he's in both Fortress movies. But I would recommend checking this out. This DVD looks pretty good. It's in widescreen. It has Spanish subtitles. That's pretty much it. No special features, nothing. And the DVD starts right off the bat. So it was an HBO kind of favorite from a lot of people. So Fortress, good stuff. Recommended.
You got 10 seconds to get that kid back, or I'm gonna kill this one! Out! 1! 2! 3! 4! 5!
One phone call with 9 kids. They won't stall. The money will come floating from the bloody sky.
The terrorists. The children. The teacher. Players in a deadly game of hide and seek.
Get out of the car, boy! Stay where you are! I'm getting closer! Don't run away! They're after us! to be frightened. Forget those dirty rascals. Forget the dirty rascals.
A prison becomes a fortress. The hunter becomes the hunted. Hell hath no fury like 9 cornered kids.
All right, we're here to do a 1985 movie, and this is the second anime horror movie of 1985 that I've seen. And this is the first one you've seen. No, you sat in on Vampire Hunter D with me too, so we both covered that one. This one is Angel's Egg.
And it's the second Amano film that we've seen.
Well, he was involved with both, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this one I have been slightly familiar with because later on it was taken. New World, I think, had the rights in the United States, and they didn't know what to do with the movie, so they chopped it up and mixed it in with this movie called In the Aftermath, which was released by Code Red on Blu-ray, then Arrow Films. And I watched that one, and I got to say, that movie, I think it's horrible. It's not my thing. I don't get it. So when I was going to watch Angel's Egg, I was really unsure what it was going to be like. It's a very short movie. It's very metaphorical, stuff like that, like philosophy. It's religion stuff going on. I don't know how to explain the plot here, but we're definitely in some sort of good thing. You don't want to spread that coronavirus.
Right, that's how you cough, guys.
Yeah. It was very a post-apocalyptic kind of world where it sees almost like these fish kind of deal, like these shadow fish, and the men are statues and frozen in time, like they are almost just destined to do the same thing over and over. But really, there's this girl protecting this egg. Angel's Egg and everything like that, and a mysterious kind of soldier finds her, and you don't really know why the soldier wants anything to do with her, and I don't want to spoil too much, but it's really bizarre, and it definitely kind of Noah's Ark, right?
Yeah, there's some retelling of Noah's Ark in here. It's like a fever dream, honestly, when you watch it. Like, I've known about this movie for a long time, because I had always seen, photographs of it, or, still images of it. Again, the artist that, designed the characters, I've always really enjoyed him. So, it's like Vampire Hunter D. I like him, I just never really seen any of his stuff. So, I was excited to see this. There isn't any dialogue in this movie. There's,
Very little,
chunks of it. But for the most part, it really is, a concept of, animation. And it's animated beautifully.
I do feel like it has a lot of deep things in there, but it's just one of those things that you watch and it means something different to everybody, you think?
I think it's one of those things where I don't even know if the director could tell you what he was doing.
Yeah.
I feel like he's telling a dream he had, and he might have been going through something, but I don't know if he could actually tell you what it is.
Yeah, I had trouble kind of thinking about things. It's not like a straightforward story. It looks really good. The animation's really cool, really unique, and I don't remember the score in here exactly. Do you?
I can't recall the score.
No, me either. But I there's not much to say about this one without spoiling it too much.
Right. It's very atmospheric. A lot of it's at night, a lot of it,
shadows
rain,
and water.
shadows.
It deals definitely maybe something it kind of looks like something like Blade Runner.
It does have a Blade Runner feel to it,
but not like the big cities. The cities are all decrepit and rotting, and no one's been in there.
Right, the
like
cities...
a Lovecraftian city where the old what are the fish people from Innsmouth?
Yeah.
They came and destroyed the place, and that's all they left. Shadow over Innsmouth,
Right.
or Innsmouth, I can't remember, but yeah. Kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, kind of like that. I wouldn't say Blade Runner because they are a more Victorian style setting. There's just fantastic imagery in the whole thing. They come across a fossil of a giant bird or angel.
Interesting. And that's what she has.
She does have an egg. There's just some weird, a lot of water motifs of drowning or flooding. There's the whole fish chasing scene.
But there's also the birth of things. And you know the story. What's the story where the guy has the chicken that lays the golden eggs, and he guts the chicken to find out what's inside to get them all the gold at once, but it's just dead, right?
I don't know that story.
You don't know the story with the guy who had the chicken who laid the golden eggs, so he kills the chicken to get all the gold at once, but then he has no more golden eggs because there's nothing inside of it. I reminded me of a point in that with what the soldier does when he confronts the egg, but it doesn't have the same outcome.
Yeah, the soldier, he asks her what's in the egg, and she can't tell him. Whether she can't or she doesn't know. And so there's, we don't want to give away too much, but I
think I probably spoiled a little bit, but that part was super aggravating for me. It was very heart-wrenching. I was like, no!
Right. I think especially because, I really liked the soldier character. He's so nice to the girl.
It's weird. He's like a silent type, almost like a Clint Eastwood type, where he doesn't really talk and you don't really know his motives, but you think hopefully for the best. But
you say he doesn't really talk, but at the same time, I think he probably has 90% of the dialogue,
which is about 10 lines.
Right? Yeah.
I would recommend checking it out if you're into anime. It's a very good-looking movie, but I would not. If you're going to be frustrated with not having a straightforward story, then you probably want to skip it.
I think that you should check it out. I think that the story is what you make it. I think that there's enough there that you interpret it as you want to interpret it. It's like when somebody tells you a dream they had.
Yeah.
You just it might be this or it might be that. It's definitely worth checking out. And this one's short too. It's an hour 10 maybe.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an hour, 72 minutes at most.
72 minutes. Yeah, and it's fun.
It's cool.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's fun, but
it's unique too.
Yeah, and eventually things do start coming together. They just never really cement together.
The final shot's also interesting.
Yeah, I really do like the final shot. The final shot kind of you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Who are you?
Hammer time!
For all who are willing to pay the price, we invite you to go through the mirror of life.
Come if you dare.
Alright, guys. You know what time it is. Hammer time. Alright, and this one is directed by Peter Sykes, who would go on to do... Did he do The Devil... A Daughter or something, the last Hammer horror movie. This one is Demons of the Mind. I believe it's a 72. I don't know what I'm talking about. And it stars Robin Hardy, who's pretty much the only actor I recognized in here. Some of the actors go on to be in more Hammer films. The young son does. Oh, Patrick Magny. I can't believe I forgot him from Clockwork Orange and Tales from the Crypt and a slew of other things. Black Cat, which I mentioned him last week. Demons of the Mind. First and foremost, I want to say that this might be the best shot Hammer movie. For as far as cinematography and set designs are, the way the shots, they're wonderful. They use lots of great zooms and pullouts, and with the special effects involved, which kind of blew my mind, which shows that it's really well directed. Now, as far as the story is concerned, I feel like we probably need to watch this one again to grasp everything, but it's a story that involves incestuous, weird things, and it feels like a werewolf Nashi story or something, because the cursed blood and everything passed on. Which is interesting enough because in the special features they mentioned this was almost a werewolf movie, which I wish it would have been. It would have made a lot more sense with the cursed blood aspect. But they do something in this movie that is completely batshit crazy with mental powers. But is it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's... I don't know where to go with this.
I guess the storyline is of a patriarchal figure. He's kind of crazy. He's out there. He has both his daughter and son kind of locked up. One is actually in a mental institution, and she has escaped at one point and had an affair with a young man who's kind of, wants to be involved with her. His son is locked up, and they're both very sick, very ill, but it seems like it's probably the family's doing. But there's definitely this weird sexual tension between all of them, and it's rather disturbing. And then they send away for a doctor, the young man who's in love with the daughter. And the doctor show up at the same time, and they have a weird relationship. Patrick Magny is the doctor, and then there's a bunch of murders happening in the village. There's also a helper. So all these people, you're like, who's doing the killings? And you figure it has to be something with the family and incestuous and all this weird shit.
Yeah, the father has like a cursed blood, a cursed lineage, according to him, and his whole thing is like he married a peasant
to clean the bloodline because they're so poorly inbred.
Right,
that's why they're all messed up in the first place.
And he didn't know if it worked or not. Like he didn't know if it worked, and then
I feel like if they would have went this more mental, like the abuse that he is causing, his paranoia and abuse that puts forth this on his children that messes them up, would have been better than what they went with. I feel like they're trying to do something that's like pre-Cronenberg, even though Cronenberg I think was starting to get started with like The Shivers around this time. But the idea I'm talking about, that those manifestations of paranoia and anger and your bad blood actually being able to push out there and do something to someone else. That's what's happening, I think, to a certain extent, or they want you to think, right?
Yeah, they want you to think that, maybe the sons of killer monster beast thing, because they do use this animal motif several times throughout it, where we don't show an animal, we don't show a monster, but the father's always saying, with like claws and furs and by the moon. His acting is like over the top.
And this guy was in the Harry Potter films, and he's a known actor, but his dialogue, his delivery, and there's a certain like charm about going over the top, like Vincent Price. He's perfect at it, or delivering your lines with a certain amount of like theatrics, and this guy is like, the blood of evil wolves mixes with the blood of tattered whores and turns, and you're just, what are you talking about? None of this, it doesn't work, it doesn't come out right. it feels like babbling nonsense, and I know that's what it's supposed to, but his eyes are just like, he's like, oh, it's just like...
I feel like it's all theatrics, but no confidence. Like the sincerity wasn't there, and so it just sounds like the rantings of a lunatic.
He's got a great mustache, though.
Yeah,
he's got
I
the
love
Chester A. Arthur mustache that goes into it. Like I said, the woods are gorgeous. They actually, like I said, they do a beautiful zoom in when he's using a gun that I was impressed with at the very end. It's on him, it pulls back, and then you see somebody get shot. Really impressed with that. It has the superstitious villagers, which is very common in Hammer. There's some psychosexual shit going on. There's this weird priest that also seems like he's possibly superstitious involved, and he shows up in the town, and at first it's funny where his character goes, because he's almost like this joke of a character where he's like, get out of here, stop scaring everybody, telling everybody that they're dead. But then he becomes like, as they shift their narrative towards this family, or towards who they find out is the killers, or they think is the killers, he becomes like almost the front runner of this crowd and is very popular, and he's like, yes, we will ban them, and at points he's like just chopping down wood
for no reason.
Well, he's making a cross, but we don't know it at the time, and we were basically saying like he's just chopping down all the trees at a time so there'll be no wood, so it's easier to find the killers, because he's bonkers crazy.
Yeah, and he looks like Gargamel.
He looks like he walks around in the robe. I was like, who's the bad guy in the Smurfs? That's who he looks, and he looks like that. I swear he's a shoehorn in for the Gargamel. But this movie's better than I'm giving it credit for. Like, it's made really well. It's just I wasn't vibing with it. Maybe I watched too many Hammer movies in too short of a time, and I'm seeing a lot of these things. Or maybe I do think the script and the message is a little sloppy.
We were talking about this with
Devil Rides Out.
Well, I think with the anniversary,
because I think Devil Rides Out is sloppy, even though people love it. I think it's really sloppy.
Right. Where when we were watching the anniversary, I was like, in this movie, they tell you everything. They don't necessarily show you everything, but it works for whatever reason.
But they show you with the characters.
Right. They show you with the characters. And I think, they're just telling a very down to earth story. In this one, it's the kind of the same thing. They don't show you anything. They tell you what's going on.
But the beginning, it doesn't start in a linear fashion.
It doesn't.
Linear fashion. So it's all jumping all over the place and really cool edits and everything with like hands reaching out and they'll cut the stuff. There's things, lots of good transitions and cool stuff like that. And then they get to like the mid-mark and he has a giant information dump. And there's like a couple of those and you're just like, man, and nothing really happens until a certain point. And then you look at it and you're already an hour in and the action starts to pick up. I'm not really a fan of this one, to be honest, and like I really thought I would like it.
Right. I think the movie looks beautiful. The locations are fantastic. I love all the flowers everywhere. The architecture, the lighting in the forest, like you said.
Magni's pretty decent in it.
And I like some of the ideas they have. It's just when, like the doctor, I think the doctor gets like the realization, like, it's not the sun, it's you, and like his only reason for saying that is because it has to be that, because they didn't show him find the realization. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Magni's kind of a grayer character, and I like that Hammer does have a lot of these scientific characters or doctors that are not necessarily good nor evil, but very shady and in shades of gray. Like the Hands of Ripper or Dr. Frankenstein, or even sometimes Van Helsing, or some of the guys that are, well, usually those guys are more, they're more good. But still, there's a lot when it comes to science and religion. There's a lot of mixed kind of characters, and I do enjoy that. But this one, I know I'm probably wrong here and in the minority, but I'm not really thrilled with this film. I'm going to read from John Stanley's Creatures Features. Okay. Where we at? Demons of the Mind. 3 out of 5 stars. Hammer Shocker deals with satanic possession resulting from incestuous sex and is intense. Shane Bryant and Gillian Hills are children kept in prison by their father. Patrick Magny is a family physician who learns the dark secrets. The visual horror only comes at the end. Directed by Peter Sykes from a Christopher Wicker script. Yada yada yada. AKA names Blood Will Have Blood and Nightmare of Terror. Oh, from Academy as Blood Evil. Blood will have blood. He keeps saying that. That's his like thing.
Did you read his rating?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Okay.
That's out of 4.
Demons of the Mind. 3 out of 4. 1972. Offbeat Hammer's psychological thriller in a gothic setting. Crazed Baron Hardy keeps his grown children, Hills and Bryant, locked away in the family castle because he believes them to be victims of inherited evil from their dead mother. That's wrong. Actually, though, it's Hardy who's the crazy one, willing Bryant to escape from the castle and rape and murder several village girls. This has a nice atmosphere of green forest, cool gray castle corridors, and red rose petals, plus an excellent cast, though Hardy overdoes it. But it's rushed. Downbeat ending seems gratuitously violent, aka Blood Will, Have Blood, Nightmare of Terror, and Blood Evil. So
he's wrong about that because he's the one who has the possession.
Yeah.
It's not his wife. His wife was the clean blood.
Yeah. So Vince says that he thinks that they inherited from his mother. He inherited... No, he was the one that had the curse, and so he married the peasant thinking that he could pass his
But
evil.
he passed it on to what he thinks is his kid, but I think he misinterpreted that. I think that Hardy was controlling his son with his mind.
Yeah. Well...
And making him commit the murders, right?
I think that's what they think at some point, that, like, he was able to control him. But then in the end, I think that was not the case. I think that it was bogus.
Okay. Well, I mean, it does have the nice pond that Hammer has, and it does have the nice woods that Hammer has, and I wonder if it's the same place. I mean, it even looks familiar to, like, the pond and everything even looks familiar to the movie Symptoms, which was a British horror film that came out years later, directed by Jose Larraz, who's a Spanish guy, and I imagine they probably used those sets those locations until the end of time.
Is this the person that also did Images, or...
No, that's Robert Altman.
Was that something else we were watching?
That's Robert Altman. That was Kansas City that I watched this week.
That's right.
Why do you look Hammer and Robert Altman? Come on.
I don't know any of this stuff.
Well,
guys.
next week is Dracula 1972 AD, and I think it's the first time Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing are back together in a Hammer Dracula movie since the first one.
Really, first time back in a movie together for quite a while in general.
Yeah, what was it? Gorgon was after the first one, and there's a couple other ones too.
Gorgon, and
there's some other ones, but the Dracula for sure.
Yeah, definitely Dracula. I'm excited for that one because I think I've seen bits and pieces of it before.
I don't remember. I've seen it before, but hopefully we get to see Cushing do a disco. It's 1972 AD.
He can't be doing any disco.
He's a young man. He can do whatever he wants. He's a young, strong man.
Did you rate your Hammer
5
movie?
out of 10.
5 out of 10. 2.5 out of 5.
Same.
2 out of 5. Because I want to be different.
Okay, we're out of here.
And I'm leading the revolution.
Viva la Resistance.
Perron.
They say they love us. I could kill them for what they've done to you. Shh. Oh, Elizabeth, I don't know what madness is upon us.
Friedrich! Klaus! They're free!
What madness lies like a curse upon this family? What secret binds brother and sister in a conspiracy of fear?
Elizabeth! Come back!
Only a thin knife edge separates reality from illusion. Sanity from madness.
I'm not Elizabeth! I'm not!
Amy. The torments of the flesh from the demons of the mind. It is no ordinary game these children play, but a ritual as old as the Druids, as profane as a witch's Sabbath.
What's wrong?
It's a warning of death.
But it's only a ritual.
No!
But it is a human madness that pursues her. She will not be the first victim, nor the last of the demons of the mind.
The demon walks in the forest of night!
This place reeks of madness and decay. Elizabeth's not mad now, but you in this house will drive her mad.
You may have thought you were trying to protect them, but without understanding, you have been destroying them.
It's been a nightmare.
We're not working yet.
No one need ever know of this horror.
The world will be a better place without me, and it won't even know that you died. Root out evil and destruction!
Please, I must go to her.
Emil, Elizabeth's safe. No one's going to hurt her, and you're in no danger.
Okay, we're gonna do questions, which I have a little bit of questions. I don't have many answers this week. So, Zach Nolan, what does your significant other, past or present, think of your horror obsession? I believe you asked this question a few months ago. I've never really had problems with my significant others. You know, like I said, I would never let someone pretty much dictate. Now, if they were like, you're spending way too much, I think we need to save, I could understand that. But I've really never had much of a problem with it. You know, when I was younger, I think people were more creeped out by it because you have like a 10, 11-year-old kid obsessed with monsters and zombies and in horror movies and stuff like that. But as you get older, I feel like most people, you know, they already think I'm weird. I'm kind of a strange person, so I mean, it doesn't really bother me, or maybe I don't even register it. But as far as relationships, it never really, you know, held me back or anything like that. Or other people never let me know. Bill Clay, question, without checking, how do you spell the actor's Dan's surname from Blues Brothers / Ghostbusters? Dan Aykroyd, of course. Geez, that's such a... I know by sounding it out, you would be like Ackroyd, which is completely inaccurate. But, geez, man. Why are you asking me this? I know it's A, like, K-Y or A-Y-K, Ack. A-K, R-O-Y-D. I don't know. Somebody pop up, but I know it's not like it sounds. But it's a pretty hard name to spell for me unless I see it, you know, at first and then get it in my memory. And I never ever committed it to memory. So, Nick Mua, any other not too well known Lovecraft films that you've enjoyed? The Resurrected, it's a pretty unknown one. You know, I would suggest that some of Fulci's movies they're very known. City of the Living Dead, The Beyond are House by the Cemetery are very Lovecraftian. But there's one called Feed the Light that came out a while ago from Intervision that was kind of Lovecraftian that I don't think that many people have seen. So Feed the Light is another one, or yeah, I would go with that. Do you actually like any of Roland Emmerich's movies? I saw quite a few of them when I was a youngster, but on second or third viewing, I'm no longer sure I do. He also comes off as a grade A jerk in interviews and commentaries. I don't think I do. And if I have, I don't remember them. Like, I never cared for Independence Day. Even as a kid, I was kind of disappointed with that movie. And I don't care for Making Contact. I don't remember Ghost Chase very well. And I don't know if I've seen any of the other movies where the White House gets blown up. Or if I have, I don't remember them. So as far as what I remember and seen, not really. Who's your favorite film score composer? Doesn't have to be a horror composer. Also, what makes a horror score work for you? I really like Riz Ortolani. Riz is really great, and his stuff in like Don't Torture a Duckling or House on the Edge of the Park sticks in my head. It always, to be brutally honest, the song from House on the Edge of the Park is always in my head. So he's one of my absolute favorites, but I mean, you can't go wrong with people like Goblin. But John Harrison's totally great too, who did the Day of the Dead score, which I think is vastly underrated. So there's so many, but Ennio Morricone, he's great, right? Kind of hard to beat him. I don't think anybody really tops him as far as that goes, but like they say, you know, he was always paired up with like 2 or 3 other guys, so they all kind of, you know, work together. So you know, there's so many good people out there, but I probably would go with Ennio Morricone or Riz Ortolani for favorite. What makes a horror score work for me? Is it stand out? Is it different? Does it stand out really is what a score has to do for me. It has to get stuck in my head and remember, like, how many, I don't know if that's the time you see it or nostalgia, but think about RoboCop. You'll never forget that score. Or The Terminator, or even something like Day of the Dead, I'll never forget. Or, like I said, House on the Edge of the Park, Cannibal Holocaust. Those scores stick with you forever. Suspiria, they don't leave you. Any of the Fabio Frizzi's scores, they stay with you. And soundtracks are the same way. They have to be kind of memorable to a certain extent. Like John Carpenter's scores always work. I think a good score fits to the movie, but also is different and stands out. It's memorable. It fits to the movie, and it's effective. So I would say that. Answers. So I asked last week any hidden gems or underrated movies in 1985. Bill Clay, he said 1982 for Class 84. I was asking for 85, but that is a great movie. Viper Rose 1978, not a hidden gem by any means, but people outside of our community don't talk enough about House. I would also like to add that 1985 was an amazing year for comedy as well. Overall, I'd say Demons is a very underrated film. Everything about it is great. Completely agree. Love House and Demons. Dead Flintstone, can't remember if you've covered it, but Brazil is my favorite movie in 1985. Love that movie. I have not covered it. I think we covered Time Bandits and Adventures of Baron Munchausen on here, but I've never covered Brazil, which is arguably the best of the three. Excellent movie, though. Nick Mua, glad to hear that your troubles are better. They're not. I've also enjoyed some of the darks, Into the Darks, especially 2018's Treehouse, in which sleazy celebrity chef gets his comeuppance. Also, the 2019 New Year's episode, Midnight Kiss, though I figured out the central mystery before the end. I like the look and direction very much, directed by Carter Smith, The Ruins. I read this with this, so it's kind of more of a question. And how many gay-themed slasher films can you name off the top of your head? This is kind of what Cruising, which is kind of a mystery crime thriller giallo slasher, and Hellbent. So that's pretty much it. A hidden gem from 1985, quite the task you set us. One that I recently discovered by happenstance is Colin Finbone's Demon. Young Nick finds himself in the throes of demonic possession, but is that what actually is happening? Usually I dislike made-for-TV horror films. This one is solid, though, definitely worth a watch. Appointment with Fear also caught my eye. A woman and police detective are tasked with protecting a child from an ancient Egyptian curse. I've always loved everything to do with Egypt, so I wanted to check this one out. I found it to be quite original. No mummies in sight. Lastly, they don't cut grass anymore. Classic Gorefest. To regular Joes who do yard work, hate uppity yuppies and decide to express their disgust violently. The acting is a bit hammy, but lovers of blood and guts should check this one out. I think I've actually seen that one. That's from the guy from the he did the Long Island Massacre and Weasels Rip My Flesh, right? The same director, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have William Adcock's Cat's Eye, Peter England, underrated although not horror movie explorers. Hidden gem I wanted to mention, Come and See, but you recently did a review, so I'll go with the Dutch gangster movie Wild Shot. Probably mispronounced that. Jordan Bibby, Clive Barker's Underworld. I really wanted to like Underworld. Sorry, hate it. Sorry, I don't want to shit on your choice because I do think some people would dig that one. And I do like the director's other movies. I just could not get an Underworld. Jamal Potter, I kind of think Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is underrated. Kind of had the balls to do something a bit different, and Krueger is far creepier here than the latest installments. Shajin Barbarian, underrated. Howling 2, I could see how it is a bad, but it's fun. Hidden gem, Igor and the Lunatics, also bad, but a lot of fun. It doesn't need to be good to be entertaining. Brain Harup, I Love Howling 2, Cody Rapp. These four are probably the most underappreciated from 85. Whorehouse on Highway 5. You guys know how I feel about that one. Paul Gazzarari. Is it Paul Gazzarari, which is a big monster movie, which I haven't seen. Evils of the Night, very fun. And Screenplay, that one for sure, is underrated. David Bachmeyer, Cut and Run doesn't get enough love. I love Cut and Run. Regiro Deodato for the win. Ned Christensen, The Stuff, so much horror and political satire. Everyone appreciates Romero's social commentary and Dawn. This is Larry's take on American consumerism and advertising. Quite underrated on many fronts. And who doesn't love Moriarty running around chewing up scenery with the wonderful New York accent and attitude? Right, great movie. Peggy Small, New Kids, great movie. Jorgen, is it Yarnow? Hardanen, Life Force, great movie. Charles McKean, or is it Misham? Malibu Express and Nightmare Weekend. I think Nightmare Weekend technically counts as 86 from Internet Movie Database. Malibu Express is ridiculous. Craig Mullen, not necessarily 85, and I don't think it's underrated either, but 1981's Possession. Then why'd you give me that answer? But that's a great movie. Brett Lawrence, Warning Sign. I haven't seen that in years. Ken Meehan, I don't think The New Kids gets enough love. Primo Spader and Philbin's best performance for my money. That's a great movie. Philbin's great in it too. And so is Spader. And the bad guys are really excellent. So the question of the week is, I want to go with best horror remake and worst horror remake. Give me one of each. Best horror remake and worst horror remake. So I guess we're going to hop into the update now, guys. All right, let's get into this update. First is Blu-ray. It's in a DVD case, but it's a Blu-ray. Violent by Sam Vanessi, who I know. Good guy. This is his first feature-length film. Can't wait to check this out. Has some people I know in there, some people I met, but yeah, I know Sam worked really hard on this movie, and can't wait to check it out. So yeah, Where am I going to set these? Okay. Then we have some from Hamilton Books. The Good, the Bad, the Weird. Got it dirt cheap. $5. Couldn't pass it up from IFC Films. Very fun movie. Reviewed it, I think, last week. Epic movie. And then we have another one from Hamilton Books. Bitch. This is a Dark Sky Films. Not seen it. Was a good price. Looks interesting enough. It's supposed to be a dark comedy. I love those. And then we have another one from Dark Side, Convergence, which I have not heard much about, but it was a very cheap price. Ethan Embry's in it. You know, Ethan Embry's actually a really good actor, especially in latter years. I think he's gotten some appreciation too. And then we have Applesauce, which is also cheap. This just looks kind of strange, weird for sure. Another Dark Sky, Hamilton Books. Dylan Baker's in there, very good actor. Then we have a Kino. Kino had this giant sale, so I grabbed some, of course. My Boyfriend's Back. Haven't seen this in a long time. Remember liking this? It was one of those TV movies that I watched a couple times and really liked. And then we have Phobia. Not seen this. Don't know much about it, actually. John Huston film, so that's worth price right there, right? I love when Kino does these sales. You can get everything from like six to like $12. So, Monster. This is supposed to be a comedy. I like the cover. And I like weird kind of killer comedy movies, you know. We have Sudden Terror. Mark Lester, Susan George. So grab that. Director of The Incubus. So yeah. And I think he did a Hammer movie as well. So yeah. Then we have The Hellbenders. I think this is spaghetti western. Yeah, Sergio Corbucci. Couldn't pass this up. Was waiting for a sale so I could grab these spaghetti westerns. I have to buy any spaghetti western they put out. Then we have Kill Them All and Come Back Home. Chuck Connors. Ennio Castellari. Another spaghetti western, of course. Then we have The Specialist. Another Sergio Corbucci movie. Can't pass these up. Love these. So, yeah. Then we got some more. Oop, bumped it. We have, let's get it in focus, Semi-Tough, Burt Reynolds, Chris Christopherson. Hear good things about this, so can't go wrong with Burt, right? Then we have Highballin'. This looks fun. Peter Fonda, Jerry Reed. Then we have one from 1985, Transylvania 65000. Got a nice cast in there, right? Horror comedy horror. Then we got She, which I've never seen. It's I think it's a post-apocalyptic. I remember the cover though. I never forget that cover. It's probably something that I grabbed and wanted to rent, but I never did as a kid. And we have The Phantom from 10,000 Leagues. And last, but I don't think least, it's The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith, which made the Video Nasties 3 list. I've not seen this. I had my eye on it for years, so right when I saw that it was on sale from Kino, I was like, yep, grabbing it. Yeah, and that's it. So, yeah, back to the video, guys. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, you guys have a good one.